Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 461. Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. They had found chairs and were waiting around. Darnell's reunion with her daughter was taking a while, and the vaguely bluish Horchka, who had marched by with downward slanting ears that had entered the room and then slammed the door behind herself, promised further delays. "So this isn't going to end soon," Echo notes. "Nope," Philly says. "And I doubt we're going to be seeing her for a while," Echo continues. "We should probably send a message and go do something else. I still have the rest of the day off, so," Silisa says before shrugging. "Oh, for the love of..." Holly begins as she stands up, walks to the door and opens it. "Hey, we're heading out. Take your time with your kids, and when you want to meet up again, just give us a call." She then closes the door before anyone can say anything and turns to the group that includes a highly amused Bjorn and Richard scoffs. "Oh, by the way, Holly, the bodyguards are going to be sticking around a bit more. Except Richard, who's going to be sticking near Darnell. We've got Daniel, Chan, and Jafar," Bjorn says. "Good to meet you all. Have you been having trouble with the girls you've been on?" "Philly's fine," the man that had been indicated as Jafar says. He has a book bag hanging off him and is in the process of tucking in a large textbook into it. From what she can spot, it's about sculpting. "Yeah, Echo's not exactly high maintenance. The bodyguard work is easy enough, almost too much," Chan says with a slight stretch. "If I didn't know how to meditate, the boredom would have gotten me." "Well, excuse me for being boring," Echo replies, and Chan snorts. "When you're on bodyguard work, you want boring." "It was a compliment," Chan says. "Besides, it let me work on my yoga. I've never been so limber." The tone he used wasn't technically teasing, but Echo's mind is clearly going there. Daniel just puts a finger to his lips and smiles. "Enjoying the mysterious routine?" Bjorn asks. "He's a goddess-damned cryptid near the job sites, the Phantom Man. The girls claim to hear strange, soft music, and if they go to take a look, they either find nothing or the glimpse of a man who vanishes without axiom. In my defense, it's hilarious and excellent stealth training. Need to do something with that sniper training, and since you told me to stop calling you with all the petty details of the job site, I don't need to know the exact number of bolts left behind in a place, just that there are bolts. Telling me about the angles relative to the nearest wall that they were laying by was just silly." "It can be important tactical information," Daniel protests. "It was annoying and way too much," Silisa protests. "Probably, but I had to do something with myself. I'm left to gaslighting your coworkers while I work on my guitar playing." "You're haunting construction sites as a guitar-playing ghost," Bjorn says blankly. Daniel reaches into his jacket and pulls an acoustic guitar out of an axiom pocket. "Of course!" Daniel then strums the strings and then starts playing the King of the Hill theme, and there are some smirks. "What is that song?" "He's often playing it." Opening theme for a sitcom about a good-natured but badly repressed man reacting to a world far more wild than he'd like, including his own son, who is far more free-spirited. "How did that happen?" Silisa asks. "Because despite his own nature, he's a good father and is nurturing his child," Daniel says. "Even if that boy ain't right." That sounded like a quote. "It was," Daniel says. "From the show?" "Oh my goddess, girl, he's trying to get you to ask to watch it with him," Holly exclaims. "Hey, no ruining the mystery of the allure," Daniel protests, waving his fingers at Holly as if casting some kind of spell. "Mystery, my tale. You guys want it just as bad and are getting a kick about being the ones who can be cute about it," she states. "Shit, she's got us dead to rights," Chan says, and Jafar covers his face with his hand, but his shoulders are shaking in amusement. Richard is chuckling. "You know, this might finally be the bit where things turn around. Watching a muscle-bound woman wrestle with feelings of guilt and failure is a hell of a thing, but anything gets monotonous." "Well, I'm sorry that our pain and suffering grows boring. That's not it at all. How to, I phrase this without sounding like a sociopath?" Richard asks. "No idea," Bjorn says. "You can't read my mind." "You have no idea how tempting it is to argue that point," Bjorn notes. "And just how would you argue that point?" "What?" "Stop that," Richard demands before Bjorn starts speaking with him, and then sighing as the group chuckles. "Very funny." "How did you do that?" Feely asks. People will repeat what other people say. He counted on that and prompted Mai to say, argue that point. Then knowing I'd protest let him keep up a bit longer. Spend some time talking to the streams. They've got all sorts of advice. Of course, after the first stages of protest, they'll do everything they can to go wildly off script. It's basic instinct at that point. But if you want someone scrambling to figure out something else to say and not be predictable, and therefore lose whatever point they were making conversation-wise, that's how you do it. A new voice says, joining them in the juvenile-looking form of an Anglo man walks around the nearest corner with a delicate blue light emerging from his lure. Hello, ladies and gents. With my partner in the private stream initiative busy with family drama, I'm on an impromptu break. Operative Depstobe at your service, researcher in mission control for private stream. Wait, so all the private streams have two people involved? Silisa asks. Yes, one on field work, the other on coordination with others and research. Lets the private stream seem supernaturally organized and informed. Easy to do with two heads working as one, Bjorn notes. That's the idea, Depstrobe says. In busier postings, we deal with things like equipment drops and helping with axiom effects too. To say nothing of the sheer amount of coordination and research that needs to be done, but a good chunk of Zalwar postings are to get people into the swings of things. You and Beryl are soon to be dispatched elsewhere? Back to Centris. We need to learn to work together first before we go into the lion's den of having a baby-faced prosthetic playing hopscotch with gang politics. Depstrobe says with a stretch. Anyone got a snack? I got the resilience upgrade thing going and my appetite is ridiculous. Can you stomach jerky? Bjorn asks. Yes, Depstrobe says and then catches a bag from him. It's so weird to want meat now, Holly notes. No kidding, but the body wants protein, Depstrobe says as he takes a bite and his eyes light up a bit. Human flavoring. Insane. Absolutely insane. Chan snorts in amusement. Way he said that makes it sound like you just tossed him some long pig. Synthetic long pig, Bjorn says, and Chan looks to him in shock. Funny. Had me going for a moment. Long pig, Echo asks. Slang for eating a human? Due to genetic relations, we're apparently similar to pigs flavor-wise, but our muscles are elongated by compare. So, yeah, Chan explains. This conversation went into a weird direction, Depstrobe says. Change of subject then. Beryl is in the middle of a family reunion. As her partner, you know her the best out of anyone here. So what's happening in there? Depstrobe considers as he takes a bite of the jerky and chews it against his mostly flat teeth. Some of them were developing edges, though. Well, it depends entirely if she thinks that being mind-controlled by an evil bitch is excuse enough for abandoning and endangering her, which I think she will, but she's been professionally hating on her mother for decades now. That's going to be a tough habit to break, especially in the first encounter. So this is going to be an ongoing story. What kind of person is Beryl? Fierce, very fierce. She has a strong sense of justice and fairness, mostly because life has been so unjust and unfair to her. But she's a hochka with a temper, a big one. A big reason why she uses a prosthetic instead of going out in person as stream is because she swears. A lot, loudly too. She also won't hesitate to smack a bitch if they get uppity. But the prosthetic is enough mental disconnect for her to react to most things calmly and in the proper, mischievous way that we're going for. Then why is she in the private stream initiative to begin with? Bjorn asks. From her attitude, she's honestly good DI material. Get her to go hands off and get creative with the insults and she's in. Because she was recruited and rescued by a gang of private streams. It left a very good impression on her. Depstrobe says and then holds up a hand. I get the feeling any further questions will likely be more personal than I feel comfortable handing out. So let's just cut that off here and now and change the subject. After saying that, he closes up the bag of jerky, apparently satisfied, and tosses it back to Bjorn. Fair enough. What about you? Are you where you want to be in the Undaunted? Bjorn asks as he catches the bag and tucks it away after plucking a couple pieces out to snack on. Kinda. I wanted to be a spy, and now I'm the brains behind a covert field operative. So that's pretty close. This is a stepping stone to get deeper into intelligence. Then it's suits, expensive drinks, better cars, and explosions. Deathstrobe says with a grin and holding out his hands as if framing an image. Strobe? Depthstrobe, Richard asks. Exactly, Depthstrobe says, snapping his fingers and pointing to Richard. I gotta say, this is excellent gossip, boys. I didn't know you had it in you, Echo says, and Sean snorts. I've heard you talking with the girls you're assigned with in traffic control. You have no room to talk about gossip, Sean says. Hey, no fair. What? Not fair to gossip about you while you gossip about everyone else? How does that make any sense? Don't you bring logic into this. This has nothing to do with logic, Echo says, and Sean snorts. She smirks at that. Out! Get out! Beryl screams as Darnell is forced out of the room and it's slammed behind her. There is a very awkward pause. So, how did it go? Holly asks. Honestly, it went very well. But there's a lot bitterness and rage to burn through. It's going to take a while, Darnell says. Then she turns to Richard. So, if I wanted to go to Centris for a day or two, to visit my daughter who thinks she's likely to be posted there soon, she's not. She's not going physically to Centris, but she will eventually be operating a private stream prosthetic over there, Deathstrobe says. Pardon, but who are you? Her partner. I do the research, organization, and relay orders to her, Deathstrobe says. I also occasionally take control when the prosthetic needs to do delicate repairs on things. Had to do it on an air car last week. Oh, excellent. Is there anything you can tell me about my daughter? I was ripped out of her life, and I really want to be a part of it again, Darnell asks. Some things, but nothing that will break her trust. Just some very general things. She and I need to trust each other, and ratting her out is the kind of thing that breaks that. Anything at all is a blessing. Well, she's strong. Not just physically, even though she has full-on fended off a Canador with a metal pipe once. How did that happen? Can't tell you, but Beryl is strong, very strong. And because she had to be. Her walls are up, and it's going to take a long time and a lot of patience if you want them down. Young man, I'm in this to get my daughters back. If it takes a century, then it takes a century. Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 462. Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. As they walk into the arena stands, there is a slight dimming of the cheer as they approach. The drones following them mark them as unsafe and not entirely welcome. Against an adept, the drones are nearly harmless. But pointedly not destroying them is a sign of trust, or rather trustworthiness, which is something her people have in short supply. The gobs and peoples that identify with them, that see into her hood and cloak, either scramble far out of her way, draw weapons, or activate defensive tools. In her wake is a forest of vacated seats, glowing weapon muzzles, activated force fields, summoned combat drones, manifested armor, and a fair few turrets, all tracking her as she makes her way to the front. The sound of the tense silence follows and then sweeps ahead of her as she calmly, and hers calmly, walk to the front. The local leader and owner of the arena pops up and turns her head to glare at them over the back of the couch. This movement causes her goal to turn his as well. The human official, the undaunted, were a military force, strong, fierce, and either moving swiftly, in a defensive position, or in Centris of all places. The more populated a place is, the shorter a span of time she and hers have until someone tries to throw them out. The gob raises her hand, and in short order, silence falls over the massive stadium. The combatants in the force field pause, and then, pointedly, the protective barrier flickers out. What do people eaters want of my arena? Electric Mama asks, and she pushes back her hood, revealing the sharp teeth in her gourd of a head. But weren't we... Her currently larger and stronger daughter begins to protest, and she holds up her hand. Her daughter is in deep distress. The stupid decision she made, the stasis-bound bundle she carries that is sealed and protected from them as much as everyone else. Not now, Vine, just watch, listen, and learn. She bids her child. She ensures she has her gaze properly locked with the GOB leader and nods. I am STEM. I simply wish to speak with the humans. In the arena, both contestants suddenly have high-power and high-precision coil cannons with what look like tritite harpoons for ammunition. If you're hungry and want the taste of cruel space, look up the gene catalog for Earth-based swine. Apparently, the taste is identical enough to fool even humans, Electric Mama states. A Floric, the human observer, states, your species was less a listing and more a bundle of warnings. Yes, she says simply and turns her gaze back to Electric Mama. I just want to speak. You can be heard from where you stand, Electric Mama asserts, and she slowly reaches to a pocket and pulls out a pair of printed tickets. I have bought seats. I am welcome in this place by you no less. And as owner, I can refund them fully. What do you want, cannibal? I merely wish to ask the human a few questions, and in return am willing to answer questions, she asserts. And what are the questions? 5 are my questions, and I offer 5 answers in return. Stem offers. Ask then, Observer Wu says. He and his bodyguards have turned in their seats and his guards all have weapons out, and Observer Wu has drawn a previously concealed pistol and a strange small device. But first, Electric Mama, are there any people nearby that will die if I use this to induce an emergency null burst? Electric Mama looks somewhat impressed and presses a button. Everyone in the stands either evacuate or brace yourself as needed. There is a chance of null burst in effect. Electric Mama's voice rings out over the stadium clearly, and a small percentile of the viewers scramble out and away, and Electric Mama nods. I suppose null would just be a useful tool to you and not a massive pacification weapon. Surprised you have that, though. Better to have and not need than need and not have, Observer Wu says simply. Still, no one has been hurt yet. Yet, Electric Mama states. Correct, yet, so I have yet to use it. Let us be polite and keep it unused. What are your 5 questions, Miss Floric? Observer Wu says, holding the Vanta black-colored detonator. It looks like a hole in reality where something was erased. What will humans do when, not if, when they find themselves at war with another people? Stem asks. Why? We are hated. We are feared. And likely some newsprout will provoke what they should not. Feasting where they shouldn't. The hunger is immense, and even true elders struggle against it. There is always failure. What happens when we fail that way with humans? If we know a surrendering opponent will not keep trying to kill us, then we will accept surrender. But if someone keeps fighting, they're not surrendering, Observer Wu answers. That is 1 question each. Second question. There are many exotic sequences that can be cloned brought outwards. Will others be introduced? Paste of insect, slices of swimming things and flying things and running screaming things. Are they to be cloned and fed upon? It can be arranged, Observer Wu says, and the smile on the jack-o'-lantern, like face of the alien, is horrifying. Rows of spikes dripping with a hybrid of saliva and entrapping sap. Why have you approached with these questions? Why ask in person? I will count that as 1 question and answer it last, she says, and Observer Wu's eyes narrow. The answer will end the flow of knowledge. You will tell me now, Observer Wu says, and she sighs. We sequenced human. There is a newborn, Floric-born. You what? Electric Mama demands. Seeking to place with own people, but not want warriors. For those of the same garden to eat each other, no. Tainted. If as warrior, then good chance will strike at garden. No. There are differences between Floric and others. But we agree, kinslaying is wrong. It is why those that cannot control appetite and devour own are mulched as deserving. Control is slipping, must shift child, or be only worthy of mulching. I have read up on the Floric, nothing like this was mentioned. Easy to imagine all sins when cannot resist a grand one, Stem says. Can you take child through cruel space, away from our maws, away from needing to make choice? The months in zero gravity would do horrifying things to the child, perhaps even kill them. A newborn is delicate, precious, fragile. They will not be able to reach Earth, not with any guarantee of safety. Observer Wu answers in the larger floric slumps. Bad will be bad wrong. Scent is so... Vine trails off. Is that baby in stasis? Scent? Scent is... Vine starts to say. An electric mama leaps off the command couch. Observer Wu and his bodyguards also hop off, and she rushes toward the floric. There is a moment of tenseness as she carefully passes by Stem and stares up at Vine. Give them to me, Electric Mama orders. Safe? Keep safe from me? Keep safe from them? Vine asks in a trembling tone as she crouches down. What, in any Buddha's name, does she mean by that? Observer Wu demands. Stories, old stories, burning gardens, soured earth, vengeance of flesh child, the dances of hate and love that bring fire and fury. Human. I know you seek knowledge. I know you seek honor as well. We cannot care for the child. We offer a copy of old legends, the stories of the Floric, in return for fitting them safety. Find nothing it is here. Give me the child, Electric Mama says as she takes the bundle from Vine. She deactivates the stasis, and Vine's eyes go wide and wild. Stem moves and forces her back, even as her mouth opens to grotesque proportions. Lasers fill the air they just vacated, and Stem holds back the now panting and horrified-looking Vine. The larger Floric grips her gored head and wails. Cannot control. Hunger. It is hunger and flesh. She screams, her grip tightens. Vine! No, it will not help, Stem shouts before there's a snapping sound, and Vine tears off her own head. Her grip slackens, and her head begins to fall. Stem catches her, and the head continues to wail of hunger. The cries of the infant are added to it, and the body that Vine just ripped herself from collapses to the side. Stains begin to appear on the shirt. It's lactating. What? Observer Wu demands. Soil and ship, tainted, just cleaned, just replaced. Minds, harmed by taint. We go. More control with clear minds. Stem says as she reaches down and activates a device on the belt of the body, and it vanishes in an axiom surge. Smoke, smoke and head, hunger, making hunger more and more. Eat, must eat. No stomach. Must eat. Eat. Eat, Vine screams. Fresh soil found daughter. Child with others. Confined later, when safe from us. Stem says as she adjusts her grip on her wailing and gnashing daughter. She pulls out a reinforced data slate and tosses it near Observer Wu, who makes no effort to catch it as he just stares. Goodbye, human. She activates a recall teleport from her belt and is gone. Only the sounds of the baby crying can be heard. Electric Mama turns back to the rest, holding the child and looking just as stunned as everyone else. Well, that just fucking happened, Electric Mama says, and then turns Tahi-chan. Oh, now there, little one. Nothing to be afraid of. Electric Mama's here. You're fine. Just fine. The slight clatter as Observer Wu pockets his weapon and null detonator before picking up the slate can be heard and seems to help break the spell. The sheer madness of the situation wove over the crowd as whispering starts and then stars, picking up in noise. Electric Mama taps at an implant in the base of her neck, and her couch walker starts moving towards them. Okay, so the games are going to start again real soon. But I'm getting this one to pediatrician 10 minutes ago and making sure they're not stasis, sick, starving, or something else. I hope you don't mind an escort, Observer Wu states. Not at all. Scene change. Holtera scrap trap. Arcology, bundle of joy pediatrics, Zalwar. Move to the side a bit, the Gob descendant Kobe says, and Observer Wu's bodyguards step out of the path of a tall device, rolling through them, and then it shifts and shines a bright light on the still, fussy, green-skinned baby, with leaves instead of hair on their head. They had quieted the little one down with a bottle of formula. The baby is capable of photosynthesis. They'll need food, but axiom siphons leading in and some artificial sunlight will help. Taking them into a thermal shielded area outside is even better, but only on clear days, which isn't today. And the baby themselves? I've induced a very, very low-grade healing trance, less than a healing coma, but there is systematic damage in this child. Unfortunately, they're very, very young. We don't have the years to burn backwards to heal the little one. You say that the Floric mother mentioned being poisoned or tainted, right? Right. I believe it. This child came from a diseased and poisoned womb. The sheer resilience of the Floric and humanity doubling down and covering up for each other is the only reason this child is alive at all. As it stands, it's going to be touch and go for a while. And without healing comas, we're looking at the life of a crippled and broken soul, the likes of which makes a Nagasha Jingai seem to be slithering on easy street by compare. The pediatrician says and sighs, "So does our little bundle of fragile joy here have a name? Or do we get that privilege now?" Forest of Sky Garden, this data slate has the child's name and family history, as well as what looks to be a scan of soil here. Observer Wu says, handing the data slate over, and the Kobe takes it and scans through it. High lead content, mercury, cerium, and neodymium. Someone seriously sabotaged the floric soil, and the child paid the price. It's a good thing they were put into stasis so quickly. The breast milk from the mother would have been like drinking concentrated poison. She says even as the fussy baby finishes off one bottle and starts squirming. "Sir, what do we do?" one of the bodyguards asks, and Observer Wu sighs. They won't survive the trip to Earth, and even if they could, they need outer galaxy medical treatment. We cannot take the child with us, not to mention they are clearly not a full human stock. Earth is not the place for Little Forest. "It's not easy being green," Electric Mama notes somberly before smiling widely. "It's awesome. You don't need to worry at all about the little guy. He is safe, because he's gonna be mine." Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 463, Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. Harold raises an eyebrow as he reads the text from his communicator and blinks to make sure he didn't just misread it. Uma leans over even as Puma demands another game from Rain in a fury. Alja is on the move and is reining in her willful son with a grab of the floppy ear and a quick bit of whispered discipline. Harold tilts the screen over and she scans it, rubs her eyes and reads it again. "They want you on the bench?" "Yes, I suppose they're a little tired of me being the one to go out and sort everything out," Harold notes. "Still, I suppose it'll be nice to be back up in the situation. I wonder who they're sending in, though." "Who can say?" Uma asks. Scene change, Sononin. Holtera Scrap Trap. Arcology, Bundle of Joy Pediatrics. Zawar. "Excuse me," a tiny voice says, and the receptionist blinks and looks around. An arm waves over the lip of the desk, and she leans over to see a tiny child in an oversized military uniform. They offer her a big smile. "Hello, I'm Private Stream. I was asked to come here by Mr. Wu and collect some things. Can I come in?" "He's in intensive treatment, acting as witness. It's down that hall, follow the red line," she says. "Thank you," Private Stream says cheerfully and bounces away. She watches him go. Everything he's wearing is oversized and his entire outfit bounces like it's trying to dance while he moves. She lets out a slight laugh at the sight and then sighs. She needed to see that. Something cheerful and innocent after hearing just how horrifically that poor baby boy had been abused. The sound of boots half clomping, half skipping, and moving at a speed that can only be described as cheerfully frantic sounds out, and Observer Wu turns to see who the Undaunted had sent to assist. A Private Stream skids past the open door. There is the sound of someone hitting the ground, and he scrambles into the room on all fours before righting himself and then rushing in and snapping a salute. "Private Stream at your service, sir," the little boy says before his eyes go wide and he sees what's on the table. Takes off his hat and expands as tattoos spread across his face to resemble numerous tiny fish leaping from rivers. His ears extend and sharpen as his now amethyst eyes explore the scene in front of him. He turns again to Observer Wu. "What happened?" "Two Floric approached us, the larger carrying a bundle, this child in stasis. The child is newborn and suffering heavy metal poisoning, severe heavy metal poisoning," Observer Wu says, handing over the data slate. "Copy everything on this slate down so I can bring it back the information to Earth and use the slate itself to find the family of this poor child and save them. His name is Forest of Sky Garden. Someone has poisoned his family. Save them." Floric, you want me to save? Is there a problem? Observer Wu asks, and the man looks startled before shaking his head. No, sir. You want the weeds saved, and so the weeds shall be saved. Weeds? Observer Wu demands. Apologies, sir. It slipped out. The man says as he activates a recall teleport and is gone. He reappears in the landing zone of Scrap Trap and puts his hat back on as his handler is buzzing off information in his ear. This is bullshit. Floric are fucking dangerous on a good day. Why the hell hasn't their ship been shot on sight? He mutters. These Floric use their birthplace as a last name, and we have the ship Sky Garden nearby. And seriously, Galanadel, rein it back. We have orders. Orders from a disbelieving, short-lived judge from cruel space without the good sense to stay out of it. It is far more complicated than that, and you know it. I know. I'm venting. I really don't like Floric. There is nothing on your record to even hint that you've been in the same solar system as one before. They're unrelenting carnivorous plant monsters that regard people as extra screamy meat. I don't need to be near them to loathe them. That is what happens when the very young and immature meet other species, or if the Floric in question is mentally deranged. These two, potentially three now if the report is correct, are heavily poisoned, badly sick, and together enough to recognize they're a danger to another and passed off the duty of care to one who could fulfill it. That is not an irrational monster. That is a sick woman, his handler says as he comes up to the appropriate landing bay. He should have guessed it was this one. There are turrets deployed and pointed at the door. They're active, but not even bothering to track him. He's not what they're concerned about. It takes just a moment or two for the door to decide to let him in with a private stream ID, and he moves past it to see their ship. There are only so many hull types and practical configurations. Floric tend to go for boxy, and the Sky Garden is no exception. He brings out his communicator and uses it to hail the ship. There is no response. He sends the hailing request twice more with a minute between each one. Time to let someone know something is up and get to a computer access panel. But there is nothing. A cold finger is slowly moving down his spine. I'm going in. Copy that. He heads up to the nearest airlock, jumps up as the boarding ramp is retracted, and uses Axiom to feel out the internals. Then he slowly activates a teleport as he has no idea what the inside of the ship should be like. He expects a graveyard or perhaps a compost pit with bones in it. It's a dead garden. The internals of the ship are endless sun lamps. Loamy floor and lattice-covered walls that once had living vines thriving across it. Now the leaves are yellow and brittle. Green stems have turned a sickly brown, and the sheer stench of decay hits like a hammer blow. He feels the Axiom totem on his belt buckle activate, and clean air surrounds him. Whatever is going on in here, it's bad enough to trigger the defenses against poison gas and depressurization. He brings out a chemical scanner, and the whole place is a poisoned wasteland. He follows it to try and find some sort of answer, and it leads him to a few rooms labeled with the names of different animals. One filled with a coop of dead birds and rotting, smashed, and putrefied eggs. The other to the half-decayed remains of some form of bovine. The whole ship is a mess, and the soil is just as bad. Dispatch, didn't the recording of the Floric state they were changing the soil out to decontaminate? Or had potentially done so already? It did. Looks like it didn't work. Yeah, but why? Galanadel asks. It's one thing for a Floric to be an abstract monster, but being in the hell pit of one's tomb is a sobering experience. No idea. Maybe someone hated them and poisoned their soil? Only answer that makes sense. But there are holes big enough to fly this ship through. We need the ship's logs, and we need to evacuate the Floric. Freaky plant monsters or not, this place is a toxic, rotting layer of hell. They don't deserve this, he says. Easiest way is to get that ship over here. Head to the helm and give me remote access. I can set its autopilot to bring it home, his partner says as there's the sound of furious typing. I'm getting medical staff on standby and organizing space in one of our gardens to be set aside and isolated to protect them. We have healthy soil here and can use it to keep them alive while flushing their systems and repairing the damage the flushing will do. On it, Galanadel says, and he rushes through the ship, quickly getting a blueprint download and using it to find the helm. There is the sound of a computer in use, and he enters to see a Floric woman at a console. She smacks the side of it. Sound? Could no sound? Bad. Ship? Failing. Why still failing? Soil switched. Scan clean. Why broken? Why failing? Miss? Galanadel says, and she does not respond. Miss! Nothing. She can't hear him. The poisoning has reached her sense of hearing. That's very, very bad. He plugs in a data chip that has a connection to his partner, and he can see him start to program the autopilot before he goes over to the Floric woman. The stink of rotting flesh and vegetation are butt-wafting around her as she furiously taps at buttons and occasionally bangs on the screen whenever she doesn't get an answer that satisfies her. Stem of Sky Garden? He asks as he walks up, and then she goes limp and turns. She's looking down and then slowly tilts her head upwards. Sickly yellow is entering the green of her body at this point, and her gourd is looking like it's rotting around the eyes. What? You? Who? Why? I am private stream of... Speak up! I am... Use words! He puts his hands on her sides and begins channeling Axiom with intent to purge poison and heal her. The effect is almost instantaneous as healthy green spreads out from where he's touching her and begins to spread through her body. But there's just so much. No matter how much Axiom he pours into her, there's always more and more harm to be found. She sways and her eyes focus clearly as she looks down and then coughs at the smell of things. Sweet forests, is that the stink of this ship? It's death here. Miss, you've been poisoned. The ship is on autopilot to the undaunted arcology. We're prepping healthy, clean soil for you, and we'll be looking into who did this. What? Who are you and why are you helping us? I am Private Stream of the Undaunted. You cried for help, so here we are. Vine, the newborn, they need healing. Where? He asks and she rushes by. This way, Stem states as she rushes out of the bridge and down the corridor. It's a nightmare, a nightmare. I was barely aware and it felt like all of reality was a smoke-choked dream. He races after her and into a clear garden room that is more a deposit pit at this point as a headless, Floric body twitches while half buried in the soil and a still living head lets out a strange, half-guttural, half-groaning noise. Vine, Vine, please live, Vine, Stem states as she picks up the head of her daughter and holds her close, pulling in Axiom to try and heal her daughter. Galanadel rushes by and goes for the body, places his hands on the stomach, and nearly flinches at the sensations. It's like there's a sack of curdled milk under the skin. The damage is immense. The body has been brutalized and broken and is failing. This is way beyond his ability to even stabilize, let alone heal. He pulls out several stasis projectors and places them around the barely living body before activating them. He then goes to assist in saving Vine. He removes his hat again and tucks it away so he can focus past its illusion and transformation to dedicate himself entirely to healing the nearly dead plant woman. Color and firmness return properly to the abused Floric as her semi-gurgling trails off and she starts taking deep breaths before sneezing and coughing in the stink of rot and death in the ship. So now that she's stable and the body is preserved, Galanadel focuses on the totem upon his belt and spreads its effects to them, clearing and cleaning the air around them. Stem lowers herself to the floor as she focuses more and more on healing Vine and making sure her daughter survives. It's touch and go for a bit, then Stem looks up and directly at him. Thank you, Alpha, truly, she says in the last bits where he could only see them as weeds withers and dies. You're welcome. The ship is moving towards the undaunted arcology even now. We have clean and rich soil there, and we'll be looking into who's responsible for this. He looks around the room that was clearly designed as a medical hall for Floric, but was closer to a torturer's garden. Travesty. The child, Forrest, is he safe? He's being seen to. Even now, he's being seen to and protected. Thank goodness. When they emerged as neither human nor Floric, I didn't know what to do, nor did my daughter, and we were so sick, are still sick. I can feel it. The Axiom is holding at bay, but there's so much poison. They're delicate, but alive. Let's make sure you are too. Galanadel states, and she nods. Thank you. Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 464. Antlers, assumptions, and artillery. Depstrobe pulls out a communicator and then raises his eyebrows. Crap, gotta go. What's going on? Bjorn asks. Call for action. Researchers are needed. About the Floric. What? Holly asks. Aren't they more like monsters? Scene change. Holterra, scrap trap. Arcology, bundle of joy pediatrics, Zalwar. This can't be right, the pediatrician says as she initiates another scan of the sleeping forest. What isn't? Observer Wu asks. The genetic structure. It's not normal. He should be human with some aspects of the DNA activated to give him more plant-like traits, likely a heavily protein-based digestive tract. But the Cope mutters as she raises an eye ridge while the second scan comes back with the same results. This isn't reading like a hybrid child. What is it reading as? The closest I can compare are Nagasha, Orthani, and Wimperus, the variations in species, perhaps in Agurk and Kruga. The two species are so interbred, they're effectively races of each other, or the Ikiamas and Ikiata. For the sake of the report I'm sending home, and with consideration to the fact I am not a biologist, please explain. Sam, no. I will not throw out random hypotheses when it comes to the health and legal status of an infant. I need a wide variety of human DNA scans, as well as a scan of the mother. If you can find out what human is the father, well, first off, I need to admonish him for fucking a plant. But secondly, I need a DNA sample from them. The Floric mentions sequencing human DNA. Then I need a copy of the sequence they used. This is very strange and the pattern, while not unknown, but is not where it should be. Unless someone's been holding out on us, humans do not have primals, she states, and Observer Wu pauses, then thinks, were human hiding a primal somewhere? I do not think so. It's just my mind has gone to old legends and myths. Compared to the average Nagasha, Urthani, or Wimparas, the casual feats of a primal are directly from a myth. The Urthani primal was a warlord born of a pacifist people that swept over an entire world in less than a year. His primal bride was the only surviving serpent from the loss of the colony ship, and by herself she birthed two entire empires worth of people. Even Claudia, who is the least interesting of them all, shattered an overwhelming enemy force within moments of emerging, then publicly went to help revive the dead, reaching into the afterlife to pull someone out of it whole, alive, and still carrying her child. Everyone has myths and legends. Old Cope stories tell of the origins of the stone egg, which will one day hatch the daughter of the stars. And Goob legends speak of the invention of inventing, and how there was a time when creation and learning was impossible until one impossible, capable Goob created the concepts by sheer will, then remade it with the tools they then learned to make. They're good stories, but not based in actual truth. Well, sort of. The stone egg is an unusually smooth meteor inside its crater that was found and worshipped during our primitive stages, and the Gob story can be traced back to the moment they went from cunning and hectic tree monkeys to full-on people. Maybe. Many old legends are also a mix of allegory and religious doctrine. Journey to the West's opening concepts portray Buddhism as the only path to tame the wild and powerful soul of man. The Odyssey is effectively a long warning about disrespecting the gods who control nature itself. Or if taken from a more modern lens, how trying to fight nature will leave even the greatest of men with little. I suppose, still, I'm going to need samples, and hopefully a copy of whatever sample they use to sequence Forrest to know for certain. Something odd is happening here. How urgent is this? Is he stable? Electric Mama asks as she looks up from the baby. She had been reaching most of the way and then stopping time and again as the baby squirmed a bit here and there and was trying to find the right way to help comfort a baby hooked up to dialysis without waking them. Stable but delicate. It's not urgent. He will live with or without us figuring this out so long as he keeps receiving the care he needs. But the samples will let me see if there are any nasty surprises coming up. I have equipment to handle. A lot. But the thing about surprises is that you're not really ready for them. I've already set the Undaunted to help his mother and grandmother. Hopefully they'll find the information you need, Observer Wu says as he brings out his communicator and then pauses. What is this? One of his bodyguards leans over and looks as if he's unsure whether to be upset or amused. To be fair, it was before little Forrest showed up. Electric Mama notes. Ma'am, I do not need your nudes. I'm going back to Earth, and it would be unfair to me, you, my wife, and my son if I were to lay with you. Well, every bullet you don't fire misses anyways, so why not fire? Electric Mama asks. I'm going to delete this. Neither I nor the people of Earth need to know about the piercing you have down there. Fine. But maybe save that until you're in orbit of your homeworld again. Use it to relieve some stress. No. Prude. Scene change. Undaunted arcology, northern landing platform, Zal War. All right, boils and ghouls. Double-check your equipment and give me the clear or compromised result. The squad leader says as the shielded gurneys are rushed to the side by medics in gas masks, in addition to their defensive fields to clear the air around them. Stem, Vine, the stasis-held body, and Galanadel were rushed past them and straight to medical. This is a scan and sample mission. No hostiles expected, but we go nowhere without at least holdouts. This ship has been compromised and is full of dead and rotting things. We need to know what kind of poison we're dealing with, how much of it there is, and if there are any more sick civilians in there. Any questions? Sir, what is our intention for this ship afterwards? We clean the mess out, then negotiate with the owners. This vessel is a legally registered, purchased, and licensed civilian ship. Too low power to be of much use to us, and what we can use it for, we can get cheaper and working even better over at other arcologies. Any other questions? Sir, no sir. Anyone else? There is silence. All right then. Are your suits clear or compromised? Clear? Good. With me. Squad leader commands, and they march up the ramp and into the ship. Immediately, the sensors on his sealed suit warn of environmental contaminants, and the scanning bars on the most hardened parts of his armor start casting out green beams to get a good, hard look at the internals of the ship. Extremely high concentrations of heavy metals and rare earth byproducts. They're up in the vines and there is a clear concentration in the floor. As they check the rooms, they find miniature ranches full of rotting corpses, and there are chips, one each, embedded in the bodies. They respond easily to scans and almost cheerfully declare that the animals died about a month ago, meaning the poisoning was even sooner than that. The main storage bay has a large, Axiom pocket-style container with the markings for fertilizer that has been disconnected from the main ship and forced to the side with markings written on the side in a Floric language. The scanners go absolutely insane with the sheer amounts of dangerous chemicals inside of it, and by the time the suits calm down, listing off just how dangerous ingesting anything from that container is, the translation software finally parses through enough languages to get a hit on the symbols used. It simply reads danger. They had caught this one, but clearly it wasn't enough. There are 4 other containers and all of them are labeled with the runes denoting danger, but oddest of all is the third of 5. One of the squad recognizes the brand on the container and explains there was a recent scandal where they were found to insufficiently scan the products they sold, leading to a rash of diseases crossing 3 entire systems before it was finally clamped down on. The company was apparently at risk of being dissolved, and a lot of the upper board were being hung out to dry as a sacrifice so the overall company could survive. Rumor had it that some parts of Centrus were taking interest, and if they took action, then the founder and CEO would have to take full and sole responsibility, which meant a death sentence was potentially on the table. I don't get it. All of these containers are coming up as biohazards to even basic scans. Why would the Floric have these? And they clearly knew something was up, but I don't get it. There may be something in here. Another squad member says, plugging his suit into the computer, and fuck! He nearly damages the computer as he rips out the connecting cable. Something just hit the firewall. The systems have a virus. Viral warfare, huh? Squad leader notes before activating his comm. Did you catch that dispatch? We did. We're sending a prosthetic stream up with an isolated data slate. Get a copy of whatever that is on there, and we'll start breaking it down. This computer is directly into the mainframe of the ship. There are some isolated systems, mostly the engines and power core, but you can access this system from anywhere, including the bridge. the squatty at the computer says, tapping through menus. I've got scanners on here, and it's saying that the boxes and soil are clean. Yeah, but they obviously caught it. So why are they still poison? Floric are dangerous, not stupid. You don't get to be spacefaring by being stupid. Not to mention, who the fuck sells this shit to anyone? I get that people usually hate the scary pumpkin girls, but this seems too coordinated for random hatred. A virus to fuck the sensors and multiple corporations selling only poison fertilizer? This is either stupidly well organized or really bad luck. I think I have another piece of the puzzle here, sir. Another soldier says while he holds a much more powerful scanner right to the side of one of the bins. This is reading as having high curium content, but the mix is cerium, lead, mercury, and neodymium. But there's nothing in the way of mercury or neodymium in here, and the lead is in such trace amounts it comes in well below even the most stringent of galactic safety limits. But that one has been disconnected and marked for danger. If it's the main source of curium, then why the fuck is it still in the soil mixture the ship over? The Floric apparently purged the ship. What if it didn't? The scanners are compromised. Why not whatever systems they have in place to rotate the soil out? I highly doubt they do it by hand. Even in a small ship, that's the work of multiple days of hard labor. Much more practical to have a machine or 10 that does it. All right, boys, I have a theory. Squad leader says, hit me. The soldier at the computer cheers out. I'm not indulging your masochism, wrench, he says, and there's some chuckling. So, this isn't coordinated. In fact, if all the people who did all this got together, they'd be horrified at what they'd wrought. You think it's a series of small issues? Seems to be. We have one, perhaps two viral attacks that on their own would cause minor but persistent damage. We have 5 or more different chemical attacks that amount to selling someone you don't like bad product because you don't like them. I'll bet these crates were in recall. And then people learned a Floric wanted some soil, so they shoved it off on what they assumed to be nothing more than monster. Any of these things on their own is bad, but manageable. All of them at once puts you in a poisoned hellscape with no escape. It's not like clean soil is in abundance in the vacuum of space. Couple that with the clear mental effects that this sort of thing has on a person, and we have a problem that seems impossible to solve. And by the time you're in a position to solve it, you're so messed up by it, you can't fight it anymore. Plausible, but we need to find their soil replacement or cleaning system to even begin to confirm this before back-checking all the different companies that sold this poison shit to them to fully confirm. Then we better get moving. Wrench, does that computer tell us anything about where or what their soil replacing or recycling systems are? Hang on. Going through it and Wrench begins before it suddenly blares at him. Something wrong? Nothing on the screen. It may have just done that randomly. Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 465, Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. It's coming to, a voice says at the edge of her hearing, and her eyes flutter as she tries to focus. Her everything is swimming, and she can't focus. The world looks choked in smoke and fog, and she can barely make out the shapes of nearby people. She tries to move, but there is nothing below her head. She's just a head. A head with strangers nearby. She starts pulling in Axiom to try and at least get some movement. Hey, enough of that! You're with friends! The voice she had barely heard earlier states, and she pauses and blinks. Can barely see, she says. You're Vine of Sky Garden, right? Lorgan with planes, actually. Sky Garden is Mother's ship, she states as she tries to clear her head. Oh, well, you're the mother of Forest of Sky Garden. So we simply assume the name was the same. One mother, Vine says. Excuse me? The body, it was mother's before mine, and her mother's before hers. My daughter's now. The body is what birthed him. So all who ever had that body are the mother, Vine says in a semi-daze. Where am I and what is going on? Wait, the child, my child. Where are they? Vine demands. Safe. Electric Mama, a prominent gob of Scrap Trap, has taken him as ward. They're in the hospital and being seen to as we speak. Good, good, something. I don't know, my mind. You're suffering severe heavy metal poisoning. The body your mother passed to you is not looking good. Your mother's recovering fairly well, but there's so much garbage in her system that she's going to be down for a while. You aren't looking too hot either. Oddly enough, your self-decapitation may very well have saved your life. The body has absorbed even more poison, and the purging is going to be slow. Who are you? You can call me Private Stream. I'm on protection detail for the gardens you, your mother, and the body of your daughter are in. I can't see you. You've still got a lot of crap in your system. It's affecting your eyesight, and your hearing, and a lot else. Honestly, the fact you're still here enough to channel Axiom is a good sign, Private Stream says. I don't know what to think. I barely can. Private Stream, that's a military rank, right? It is, Private Stream confirms. Are you going to hurt us? No, why would we do that? We were threatened. Our, something. It's all smoked out and faded. But we wanted something and a military security? Armed response was the answer. She says as consciousness tries to drift away and her eyes close as she feels herself starting to fade. She can taste the healthy and delicious soil. Did you want a replacement for tainted fertilizer? Private Stream asks and her eyes snap open. That's right. We were trying to buy fertilizer, but it always tasted sickly and wrong. The scanners came up clean though, but it always tasted off and the other plants on the ship were withering. We bought new fertilizer and put the soil through a cleaning cycle, but it only got worse and worse. The systems all said it was clean, but it never got clean. We have some people in your ship. They have reports of at least a virus in your scanning equipment and a lot of heavy metal poisons in the fertilizer bins. We were coming here for more, hopefully clean earth and repairs. Something was wrong, but the time spent in transit, it just got worse. And something went wrong. The trip took longer. There are viruses in your ship's computer. Everything we've hooked up to it has either been comprised or had its defenses light up. Thankfully, we seem to have caught all of it, but you never really know with digital intrusions. How bad? We have a dozen different programs and viruses in your system? A dozen? 12. Then why not say 12? Is that really important right now? I suppose not, Vine admits. What's going to happen? You're going to be fine. Just rest. We've got you. No one's got us, Vine murmurs, even as the urge to sleep comes back even stronger, and she drifts away unwillingly. Scene change. Undaunted arcology. Northern landing platform. The Sky Garden. Zalwar. Yep, viruses up and down in these systems. They're starting to crash into each other and set off systems at random. Wrench notes and squad leaders sighs as the alarm blares again and then again in a manner that makes it sound like it's interrupting itself. From what we can tell, we had a borderline Three Stooges style effect going on where the system was so messed up, it was actually stopping itself from messing up further. But that equilibrium is gone now. Hence why it, Blair! The system screams out in an emergency warning. It, Blair! He pauses for a moment to see if it's going to do it again, and then is cut off before he can even speak by another. Blair! Turn it off, he shouts over the next. Blair! Yes, sir, Wrench, the technician of the squad, states. Need to whack it? Someone asks him. Maybe, Wrench says as he taps a bit and then punches the wall next to the screen. The power fluctuates for a moment, and he seems to get deeper as the main lights of the ship deactivate and the red emergency lights flicker on. Thankfully, the endlessly screaming warnings have turned off as well. Works every time. I thought it was whacking things with your namesake that worked every time? Wrench shrugs. It helps to have the proper tool, but improvising works. Okay, so Zarvi Industries here set up the sheer lead content in the soil, the man with the scanner says as he pulls his tool away from another container marked danger in the Floric language. Ghost, do you think we're in the clear? You know I don't get your nicknames. A new voice says, and they turn to see a Private Stream that is clearly a prosthetic skipping into the cargo bay. That's Wrench. He's supposed to be our computer guy and engineer, but half the time he just hits things with a wrench, and it works for some reason. Over there is Ghost. The man just fucking disappears whenever there's scut work to be found. The skinny guy is heavy because he's rail thin and eats 3 times what the rest of the squad does, but is still the scrawniest bastard here. Monster over there drove a training vehicle into a pond, and calling him Sea Monster never stuck. "And your nickname of Raisin?" Private Stream asks. "Fuck up in training. I was a fat guy before and didn't get out of the sun enough. So I ended up shriveled and brown by compare, like a raisin," the squad leader says. "Huh. I'm Private Stream." "Got it, streaming privates," Ghost says immediately. "Bit of a stretch," says the man hiding behind a fake face. "Who says I'm a man? I suppose you would be a sissy." "I don't even know where to go with this. What have we found so far?" Private Stream asks. "The fertilizers from numerous different companies have been compromised. The ship's systems are drowning in viruses, and put together, it means the Floric weren't just sold poison, but false assurances that it was all fine. By the time they had any chance to recognize the danger, they were probably already affected by it pretty severely, which would massively impair their judgment and ability to deal with the situation. Couple that with the animals dying out a month ago, they were likely relying even more on their ability to absorb nutrients from the soil to sustain themselves, which sped up the process. Raisin reasons. And with impaired judgment, a recognition that things were going wrong, and more, they probably tried to clean out the ship multiple times and kept getting false positives. Private Stream confirms as he looks around the room with massive scanning beams from his eyes. This is real bad. Who wants to join me on the bridge to see if we can't find more information? We'll have to turn the systems back on, but that's the solution to nearly half of all computer problems to begin with, so yeah, Wrench adds with a bit of a shrug. Sounds good to me. Head out, men. Raisin commands, and his troops fall in after him as they move through the ship after Private Stream. So what do you think is going to happen next? We could sick our legal division on the companies for attempted murder. Give them some bad publicity, Monster asks. If the Floric didn't have an all-around shit reputation, I would be inclined to agree. But with how badly the rest of the galaxy considers those people, it may be a threat of a good time, Raisin says as they move through the ship. In the dim red lights, the place looks even worse, with the gnarled, twisted, and desiccated vines and wilted flowers casting disturbing images on the walls as they pass by. The bridge is a typical tiered affair. They usually come in 4 varieties. A cramped area where one person could be expected to quickly step from console to console, to large areas with reinforced terminals that can do double duty as cover in a firefight, to a simple room with a few pits containing a vast amount of screens and computers to allow privacy and communication. Finally were these most typical of bridges, a large tiered affair with a series of large main screens for communication and the displaying of information for everyone. Private Stream goes to the captain's couch, and after a few moments the entire ship begins lighting up as normal. Then the fire suppression systems go off and water starts spraying down on everyone. So the fire systems is connected to the power switch. The power switch is connected to the... Whoa! Private Stream starts singing as he starts fiddling before the command chair suddenly turns hard enough to throw him out of it. Okay, that was fun. He gets back up and leans around the rapidly spinning chair to input a few commands, and the ship powers down. Then it starts to power up again, but only a quarter of the lights come on and the screens light up. Safe mode, the anti-hacker's best friend. Private Stream then hops into the chair and starts typing through things as Wrench leans over his shoulder. Okay, so only the bare-bones necessary systems are on, and it's running off of defaults and minimum power only. Now I plug this in, and the lights flicker. Private, Raisin begins. Calm down, it's scanning software. But 9 in every 10 bits of the computer are being kept asleep, so even that is causing flickers. We need to get a good hard look at who has fucked these Floric, Private Stream says as he looks at the data chit with the flake of protein in it that's connected to a secluded computer designed to identify, break apart, and counter viruses. He glances at the screen and then nods. Okay, well, it's done already. Seriously? Linked to an antiviral supercomputer? One of the better ideas that tumbled out of R&D in the last month. Private Stream says as he fully activates the computer, and instantly warning alerts start screaming from the scanning station. And that's the ship suddenly realizing that it's a poisoned hellscape. All right, from what I'm seeing here, Wrench says, it looks like it not only recognizes the pure poison in the soil, but that there is no sufficiently clean replacement soil on the ship. It's asking for a full purging protocol. Figure out what that is before it's okayed, Raisin orders. No shit, Wrench remarks as he taps a few links and reads things over. Okay, there is a marked area on the outer hull that it will teleport the tainted soil to get it out of the ship immediately. Apparently, this is the backup area as there are no currently marked containers for contaminated soil. Hold off on that, get the technical specifications for the required container, and we'll use one of those instead. Even if there are not our procedures, a safety procedure is not to be dismissed out of hand, Raisin orders. And tell me what the cleaning programs and methods look like. Small teleport beacons and deck plating. 1 square meter means the whole ship is covered. But they're small, specialized, and inert unless activated. This allows them to swap out any bit of dirt with some fairly good precision and keep track of their ship flawlessly, if the system isn't compromised. And it was, badly. So we're looking at a bunch of petty hacktivists taking a stab at what they think are monsters and a few unscrupulous bastards selling products on recall to people they hate. Raisin reasons, all of which are crimes, and with the amount of damage caused, Private Stream trails off. We're getting legal in on this. See if we can't get public relations in as well. Public relations? Private Stream asks. Solve the problem long term. Short term, we know what we're doing. But long term, we need people to understand that being assholes to Floric is what makes them the nightmares they're afraid of, Raisin considers. Why are you only a squad leader? If you're not in the middle of something exciting, then promotions take time. Dude, we're undaunted. And compared to other undaunted, I'm ditchwater dull, Raisin remarks, and Private Stream starts to giggle in amusement.